Welcome back, everyone. Now, today I'm delighted to welcome June Slater back to the show. And since the Netflix trilogy-style Nigel Farage, Elon Musk, Tommy Robinson debate has ripped through social media, well, June has probably been the most requested guest from you, the viewers. So here she is. June, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, June, let's start off. I mean, look, obviously, this last couple of days at least, well, since the weekend, really, I've described it as like a British political Netflix series, season 1. What do you make of what's gone on over the last few days?
Well, normally with politics, I've been handling it now for about 9 years. I never thought it'd be that long. Normally it's a bit of a lull, isn't it, between Christmas and New Year? Nothing's happening. Parliament's shut. Everybody's getting fat, eating Christmas puddings, and it's just been non-stop. In fact, I've been busier trying to keep abreast of things than when Parliament's actually in session. And it's just one thing after another. But I think what's really happening, I honestly do believe a huge mountain of people have woken up, which is probably, I can tell with my Facebook page, because, it goes a bit barren if I'm on certain topics and then it dies down. Twitter's a bit faster. Twitter's where the news is and real free speech. But Facebook, I can tell what's happening. But I scroll through my messages and it's usually people who follow me sending links. But there's been so many new people that, I don't recognise names just with typed up messages. Yeah. June, I've just found your page. I'm so glad I found you. I can't believe what's happening. Everybody, it doesn't matter how they voted. It's got nothing to do with what party they support. Everybody that I deal with is up to ear with this government. Absolutely.
Yeah. The mainstream media are still kicking and screaming now, aren't they?
Well, they are the biggest problem in the country. If you had an honest media, everything we talk about would disappear because the people would know about it and they would act. You've only got to look. You've only got to look with the gang rape gangs, the Pakistani-led. You can't get in one without knowing a Pakistani. So it's not saying it's all Pakistanis. It's led by, it's a phenomenon. You've got to look at that to get to the core of the problem. And you've only to look at that because of free speech on Twitter. Elon Musk has shot this to the top 10 subjects being discussed. It's up there. And all of a sudden, the mainstream media are less powerful than they've ever been, whilst social media is growing more powerful. And they can't hide away from it. They used to put it out like bushfires. And obviously they had Facebook on their side. I got 8 30-day bans from Facebook during the last 6 years. 30 days offline altogether. You can't interact, can't do anything.
Well, Nick Clegg's gone now, so we might have a chance.
Well, yeah, and Zuckerberg's come out. He's obviously been trumped. It's the Trump effect. He's had a meeting with Trump. Zuckerberg's come out on about free speech. Obviously, I have my own interpretation of that. How many people got damaged by rolling the sleeve up if Zuckerberg had actually let people like me and many others put the information out about rolling your sleeve up? I'm avoiding keywords here because this particular platform doesn't like it. They're responsible for an awful lot of decision making that people didn't have access. My mother brought me up, make your decisions from an informed platform. There's all the information, look at it, and then do what makes you feel comfortable. After you've had the information, people making any decision without all the information aren't they think they're comfortable, they're misguided. And I think people like fact checkers, that's why I did a post about it this morning, have an awful lot to answer for.
Yeah,
dreadful.
Absolutely.
June, go on.
Now, so you mentioned Elon Musk, and that's where I want to, really get the conversation going today, because it brings us to the elephant in the room, which is obviously Nigel. This is probably where we're going to have a fairly wide gap in our opinions. But what do you make of what Elon said about Nigel? Why did he say it? And more importantly, perhaps, 3 questions in one, really. What do you make of Nigel's response and how he's reacted to it?
Well, first of all, we have to, even though Elon is probably one of the sharpest engineering brains on the planet. He'll be a quick thinker. He can speed read. He can read books. This is a very clever individual. That doesn't necessarily mean he's got it right. And at the end of the day, I think he's done an enormous service to Great Britain by highlighting what's going on. I think his assessment of Nigel Farage is flawed. Not totally incorrect, but it's flawed because he doesn't understand British politics. Now, Nigel Farage has probably been on Elon Musk's radar recently, since the next elections, in America. He'll be a new catalyst for Elon Musk because Elon Musk has also got political. The difference is that Nigel Farage has been treated like Tommy Robinson in a suit for decades. I've got footage that I've seen because I did a lot of work about the European Union. That was my bag, wasn't it? Brexit and uncovering the fact that the European Union is in fact a communist style setup. So back in the day, Nigel Farage as an MEP was a massively important figure because just like he's doing now in parliamentary debates, in back cabinet offices, he highlighted a lot of the shortcomings, even with Rompuy, the guy that wore a hat like a lampshade in the European Union, one of the presidents. He described him as all the charisma of a banker. Now, I've seen footage of Nigel Farage coming out of the European Union building. I'm not joking when I say this. His bodyguards come out first and have a quick look round. This is Brussels. This isn't the Middle East. His bodyguards come out first, have a quick look round, beckon him out, and they take him to his car like a sex offender to get him in quickly before he's attacked. And when I say attacked, I mean rotten eggs, fruit. The guy went around with 2 overcoats because it happened that often. He was banned from restaurants, spat at in the street.
June, does that really equate to the same treatment as Tommy Robinson? I don't ever see Nigel been in prison. I don't ever see, the media
he hasn't done anything the law can trip him up on, has he? He hasn't broken it. You've got to remember the law can be used, can't it? It's being used right now. That's why Tommy's sat where he is. The law is being abused. It's my opinion as a layman, and I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
The difference with the two characters, Nigel's a politician. Nigel's come from finance. Nigel's come from, I call it document world. Where in his world, he'll have to read a shed load of documents to know about finance. He's gone into politics, ideally suited, reading documents again, and then putting that out to the public. Tommy's come from a street level background like me, not much education. His background is first-hand interpretation of events, seeing what's going on in his hometown, trying to do something about it. Tommy's been buggered from the word go because they'll never let it drop about his earlier beginnings with EDL, which is about as relevant as saying he likes ice cream, because whatever he did or he didn't do, he walked away from it. He took abuse from his own side for doing so, and he's tried to clean his act up, as in he was young with no guidance. And you're working class, you're not being educated, you haven't got this like fantastic, Oxford or Cambridge background where you're sitting around debating with people. You're just getting through life, earning a living and trying to do your best. And he's certainly highlighted a lot of very sensitive issues. Sadly, every single issue is something the establishment don't want to touch. And the establishment, no matter which party's been in office, have got the media in their pocket because for the last decade, it's been owned by the same 6 companies across the world. So where we used to have breaking stories like Watergate because X film company got hold of it, now we don't have that facility. They're all owned parroting the same crap everywhere. So unfortunately, the 2 different backgrounds. Nigel's been able to walk the tight. I'm going to call it a tightrope. So there's the establishment here, and here's outside the establishment where they like to sit people like Tommy and Katie. And this tightrope, Nigel's managed to stay along it because he hasn't broken any laws. No, they can't do anything to him. And he's got one of the sharpest brains you can have. Now, what I see unfolding in front of us when you're asking me about Elon Musk, Tommy Robinson, and Nigel Farage is 3 characters. One's immensely rich and influential because he owns the free speech platform called Twitter. Nigel's very influential because he's managed to stay relevant, even after he's walked away from politics by having his position on GB News.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't challenge Nigel Farage legally on anything because I think Nigel Farage is very savvy and he will win. If he decides to do something legally, if you're going to say, what do you think is going to be the outcome? Somebody asked me that about him taking the banks on. And I said, I think she might be at Job Seekers in a few weeks' time. That was her in charge of NatWest. And because he won't take it on, he walked away from his job at GB News. I'm just giving you background here to get a grip of how the character thinks. He walked away from his job at GB News to concentrate on sorting his bank out. Now, at that time, several other MPs and their relatives had restricted banking, but they didn't know how to handle it. They still had to just put up with that. These weren't bad people. They weren't right-wing or anything. They hadn't done anything wrong. But even relatives of theirs had struggled to get bank accounts because the banks, just like the media, are all part of the same cabal. Nigel didn't get caught like that, did he? Nigel brought the bank down. And that brain, I want fighting for me. Now, what's happened is Elon Musk has come out, he's a bloke, texting on his own platform. How bloody marvellous must that be? It's like having a giant swivel finger to the world, isn't it? And he said, Nigel's not the right man for the job because he's not handling something in a way that, Elon Musk wants a more biff, baff, bosh, and Nigel more guarded. But Nigel's under more scrutiny. Nobody's scrutinising Elon Musk. He can do what he wants. He's the richest man in the world. He's got a rocket. I mean, you don't get any more powerful than that. He's got all the satellite links that the governments need to run their stuff off. No one's going to really challenge that man. So I always think, go on.
Yeah, sorry, June. You say about Nigel's brain. I mean, I'm going to come back, from a layman's viewpoint, if you like. I mean, yes, I said yesterday, he's incredibly intelligent. He's very switched on. He's a super experienced politician. But why did he pit himself against the country's most popular working class hero? Why did he do that? Why has he not been able to keep Tommy's name out of his mouth when Tommy has never asked to join Reform? He's never requested a meeting with Nigel Farage. He doesn't talk about Nigel Farage. So why hasn't Nigel got the street nous to just say nothing or to be... I mean, politicians are very good at not answering questions. Why has Nigel failed in this instance? Because
he's not been sharp enough in this instance. And the thing is, it's not him that's bringing the question up. It's the media. We've never... everybody has to think when they're faced with an issue, how did that come about? The media. Why did the media come? I can't remember whose show he was on. He was on GB News, I think, when he first said it. And then he legged himself up on Nana's show later on. But the thing is, with Nigel, I think, personally, if it would have been me, I'd have deflected it. I'd have said, why are you so curious about Tommy Robinson? I'm more curious about Peter Mandelson. He's going to be our ambassador. And I'm looking at his track record with moving money about. I'd like to have a closer look. I'd have deflected it. That's how I would have handled it. Nigel hasn't. Nigel's kind of come out and denounce, I'll call it denounce, Tommy Robinson. Oh, no, it's nothing to do with us. He's a criminal. He's this, that, and the other.
Well, he's done more than that. He lied about him.
Well, I can't remember if he lied about him.
Yes, he did. He said that Tommy had a criminal conviction for physically, worse to the effect of he'd been beating up women. That was the effect of, and that is a lie. That is not only is it factually incorrect.
I haven't seen that.
He did.
I've seen him on Nana's show. I can't remember who the first one. I watched him
on
live
on LBC. On LBC, he said he's got a criminal record as long as your arm, including...
right, hang on. How old is that interview?
Yesterday,
right. That's why I haven't seen it then. Yeah. I don't follow LBC, so I haven't seen it. I can't answer that, can I? All I can say about Nigel, I think he's handled this badly in this instance. Now, two things here. When I'm talking to you about Tommy, I'm talking to you about Tommy as a commentator who's only interacted with Tommy a couple of times in messages. And as you know, I did that little video for his first gathering, his rally, to support what he's trying to do. And I think he's turning into an absolutely first-class journalist, just what the country needs. I think if they just give him a chance to continue down that route, would have a wonderful, almost a new media channel that you could rely on. You know, it could be making watchable stuff, interestingly put together as well. You know, like a new age McIntyre or Cook Report style thing. Just what we need. That's how he should be allowed to flourish to me. He's not a politician and he's not asked to join Reform. And there's no need to denounce him in such a manner. And I think Nigel should, instead of doing what he's done, my personal opinion, it's a failing that, and he should have attacked the media. Why are you asking me? What does it matter whether I'd have Tommy Robinson in the party? But the trouble is, what people don't understand, the catchment. Now, I've been looking through all the figures. I've done quite a bit of work on it. The catchment that Reform have the ability to pick up, as in voters for the future, is ginormous. And it will swamp anybody that supports Tommy, that feels strongly enough to think, right, that's it. I'm not having anything to do with Reform. In your thousands, you can bugger off in your thousands. It will not make a dent. And you have to understand that. And you have to go wherever you feel comfortable. It's one of the most important things to me is people have the information to make the choice that makes them feel comfortable. So if you're angry with Nigel Farage and you can't back Reform, that's your choice. Go. Don't put up with it. Go. But don't.
That I agree with, June. That I agree with. That you know, as big as Tommy's fan base is, the catchment, as you refer to it, is without question far bigger. And I think that's probably what Nigel is relying on. However, his constant attacks on Tommy, to many people, for me, it reveals a weakness that has actually caused the division, precisely the opposite to what we need. We need unity, not division.
Well,
why should we trust
We don't need unity. No, I disagree. We don't need. What's this unity about? Who wants it? He hasn't asked for it. Nigel Farage hasn't asked for it. There's no need for unity.
We have to unify at the polls, at the voting booths. We have to unify.
To the polls as an individual. Whatever happens, you go to vote. You go to vote as an individual. It's a secret ballot. You go in a box. It's very secret. You put your cross and you come out. Nobody knows how you voted unless you want to share that information. We're all going as individuals. And the important thing here is this. I call it the supermarket test. Stand outside of a supermarket with a clipboard, write 4 names down. Write Tommy Robinson, Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib. And ask everybody that comes out that supermarket, do you know, quick survey, do you know? They'll know Nigel Farage. They will not know Ben Habib. They will not know Rupert Lowe. There's a chance they'll know Tommy Robinson. But 50% of the people that know Tommy Robinson will only know him in a bad light, because I'll bring you back to the elephant in the room, the media. They'll say, oh, yeah, isn't he that EDL, that right-wing bloke? That's what they'll say. I have family members. I've done this test with them. I played a video without showing it. It was Tommy Robinson. Played it for an elderly relative. And it was a really good video. I think it was that Vice Grad guy interviewing him, stood near Parliament. I said, what do you think of this then? I'll not say her name because she's not on social media. And she sat and listened. She's in her 80s. And as she listened to what he had to say about our country and the way it went, tears rolled down her face. Just rolled down her face. And then she wiped them away and she looked sad. And she said, I'm going to get upset because it's somebody else. And she said, my God, that's just how I think about my great-grandchildren. What world, what country is this turning into? Now, she don't know Tommy Robinson. She don't got a clue who he is. I said, that man you've just listened to is Tommy Robinson. And she went, who's Tommy Robinson? So then I had to explain, fairly detailed, who he is and why he's in jail right now. And she said, well, that can't be, because people are naive. They don't follow the news. The biggest catchment that Reform are going to get is nobody listening to this podcast, nobody on social media, nobody listening to any podcast for news, for political news. Their catchment is the rest of the country. It's the people still sitting there with the sleeves rolled up, waiting for another shot at the great prize. It's the ones that are happy to wear a mask that never question lockdown. It's the ones that don't think there's a uni party, but they're just fed up with government. It's the ones that voted Labour. They're getting Labour members. I know Labour councillors who voted for Reform in the last election. Now, the thing is, they would never support Tommy Robinson, no matter what he was doing. The mind's made up. It's a closed shop. It's like Gaza and Israel.
Yeah.
You can't talk. You can't teach people to change their mind on that one. They've made their mind.
No.
And Tommy's
for me though, June, we have to take Tommy out of this equation in the respect that the problem is here is that I agree with everything that you've just said. Everything. I agree totally. The problem for me is this: is that look. Let me play you a video clip. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. What I'm not going to do, I'm not going to play clip after clip of what Nigel said, because that wouldn't be fair, because we could also play clip after clip of the good things that Nigel said. But for me, this was the defining moment where I think myself and a lot of other people thought, hold on a minute, this isn't right. This sounds like pandering at best and submission or capitulation at worst. Let me just play this clip, because this is where I think Nigel Farage's problem has started.
Okay.
We have a Muslim population in Britain growing by about 75% every 10 years. Right? That's just where we are. Mm-hmm. If we politically alienate the whole of Islam, we will lose. We'll lose.
So how does one include
We
them?
will lose. By 2050, goodness knows what kind of a terrible state we're going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, June, here's why that was such a defining moment for me. Nigel said quite clearly that we will lose, which suggests to me that we're in a battle that he clearly recognises. So why can't he recognise that if he goes to war with his own supporters, that it's he that will lose and therefore the country? So that was a very, very strange statement for me, and it showed a weakness that I'd never seen in Farage before. For me, that was more Neville Chamberlain than Winston Churchill, and it's been a problem for a lot of people.
It's not a problem for me. It's definitely not a problem for me. We will.
So you haven't got a problem with someone. Really,
you're not looking at it. You're misinterpreting his wording, and Nigel Farage does not want to be the politician that causes a holy war, and that's what you're inviting, taking it on as an institution. Islam is an institution, not grooming gangs, not bad people within Islam, not horrible illegal aliens who are criminals who happen to be of the same faith taking on Islam. It's right. We have got our country in such a mess. We know we don't have. The reason that the marches every weekend about Gaza are allowed to take place and unhindered, they don't have enough police to police it any differently. They don't have enough troops and soldiers. We couldn't fill Anfield. So we've left our country undefended. So when Nigel Farage says, what sort of a state will the country be in if we take Islam on head on? You've only to listen to, I think, is he called Nick Griffin? Nick Griffin thinks we're already gone anyway, that the demographics will change through the birth rate. I don't see what Nigel Farage said then ran a chill through my spine. If there was ever a moment I was thinking of buggering off from this country, it was not because he won't fight for it, because have we got something we can fight for? Because we've got 650 MPs sat in that house that haven't got the backbone to have created legislation that stops us being in this position. We've got people who lie themselves on tarmac at Stansted Airport to stop illegal aliens, many of which were criminals, being deported from the country. We've got the Walking Dead that never think about politics, that are off to TK Maxx for another bloody top, and the people that are taking their kids to football and just getting on with their life like they should be able to do in a country as well off as ours. You've got to fight all them. And then you've got the element, and it's not the ones that came in the 60s, it's the generations afterwards, fanatics. The proportion of fanatics amongst the opposing team is way too high. And you've got all these people sitting around in hotels. You see it.
So are you saying, June? So it was Nigel saying, and are you saying that we have already lost? Because that's what it sounds like.
Nick Griffin says. Nick Griffin was interviewed by a couple of Muslim lads that have a podcast. I can't remember what it was called. And
is this recently?
Yeah.
Recently, or is it an old one?
12-month-old, maybe 18-month-old. He was out. It wasn't. It's after he was an MEP and all that. You've only to look at half the common sense things that Nick Griffin said when he was an MEP. How it got shut down. It was statistics. They were shutting him down on statistics. Nigel Farage doesn't want anything to do with Nick Griffin, the BNP. And what I think Farage...
Nick Griffin is an ethno-nat, and I've got no time for ethno-nat. That's the problem with Nick Griffin for me. Mean? He believes in whites only.
Oh, does he? Right, I don't know that.
He's an ethno-nationalist. I'm not saying that everything he said was wrong, because a lot of what he said was right. But ultimately,
statistics. When he's looking at figures that have been
statistics. Yeah.
But I don't see that was not that. That made me sit up and think that the enemy that we're really facing is our own legislation. Because nobody's bothered to look after this country, and it's left us wide open. You've only to look at the reaction to Southport, the videos of the young men from this community that decided to take to the streets as a show of strength. You're up against that. And if that kicks off, that's all right. Somebody who's a young buck that has been inspired by Tommy to go out and fight for his country. I get it on my thread. We need a revolution. Well, sod off. I don't want a resolution. I'm 67. I've got tube grips on my knees. The last thing I want is a sodding revolution. I don't want bloodshed. It's not going to work. It's going to be our blood that shed.
Who does? Who does?
Not America. God knows what's hidden in these religious places, if you know what I'm saying. They've all got ceremonial swords. You can say make a mess of people with a bloody big sword.
June, you know what? This is. Look, this is a great conversation, because so much of what you're saying I agree with, but there are elements where I want to push back. And look, I cannot believe that, for example, the hate marches on a Saturday. If I was in charge of this, if I was in charge of this government, there would never be another one again. Or they try, and they'd all end up in jail. And the reason why is because I'd have the backbone to face these people up, send out the police, and if the police aren't willing or capable of doing it, I'd send in the army.
Yeah, but there's none. You're practical. What we've got here is institutionalized cultural Marxism. And what they've done, they call it the Long March for a reason, because they reckon it takes 100 years. The cultural Marxists have infiltrated all our establishments, like the universities. You've only got to look at Common Purpose, Cressida Dick. What a great name she's got. Should have ended in head.
Very apt.
David Cameron. David Cameron in his Big Society. That's a left-wing idea. That's cultural Marxism. So you've got all these people, and while we're busy, I'm busy doing my business, you're busy doing yours, and we're just hoping for a better life, and we nip out and vote at general elections. These people are working day in, day out. George Soros with his Open Society, pouring loads of money in, Tony Blair with his institute. They're all there, powerful people, the media, all by the same cabal, and they have created this country. We have had police chiefs. It's not the policemen. It's not the ones on the ground. I get loads of messages from coppers saying they're sick to death of it, can't wait to retire. It's not what it turned out to be. You know, they're taking people off, teaching them about multiculturalism while people are going around multiple rape gangs using our kids. They say, oh, you know, you mustn't upset them. Why mustn't we upset them? If they're, you know, if you were running, let's go back to like not cavemen days, but middle-aged Britain. The way to keep control of your community is to isolate the bad people from it and get rid of them, banish them, punish them. Whatever your village or whatever you do does at the time, you get rid of your bad element. What's happening here is, because we haven't upset people, because we've gone down this multiculti route, the bad people are allowed to flourish. And the bit that I don't understand, you know, this focuses on Nigel Farage. He's one man that isn't going to get everything right. But that particular video did not make me think any less of reform. And this is all about multiculturalism.
It's not about reform, June. It's not about reform for me. It's about its leader. Let me run through. I mean, look, I've written some notes down here because a few people that have asked me to mention some of this stuff to you. Let's look at. I don't want it to turn into a Nigel Farage knocking show, but we need to get this stuff out in the open. You know, look, people look. The appointment of Zia Youssef was a strange one, to say the least. People accuse Nigel of it being the Nigel Farage show. That he's dumped on the Brexit Party. He dumped on UKIP. He walked away after the referendum.
UKIP dumped on him. I couldn't believe they allowed certain individuals to transfer from UKIP to the Brexit Party to the Reform Party. That was just madness to me, but just my opinion.
Okay, so I'll keep reading these out. The lack of democratisation in the party. Now, he's still, despite what he says, he still hasn't. Well, you say it's irrelevant. We can't vote in the new leader.
Good.
So we can't vote in the new leader.
God for that.
Really?
What a sensible decision that is. And you can vote in a new leader, just like the Tories can. This is nitpicking at a time, right, there's your list of problems. The house is on fire and you're talking about nipping back in to turn the electric off. Doesn't matter, it's on fire. There's that many other problems with this country. The last thing on my... I'm not even a member of Reform. I won't join Reform. I won't join any political party. I won't give them any money. I don't give politicians money. If they can't make it work with their own money and the big fat backers, then they're not making it work with mine. So I'm out the frame. I don't really give a stuff how Reform's set up. And if Ben Habib, and a fantastic politician Ben would make, people of Wellingborough have missed out big time with Ben. But if Ben wants to focus on that, that's up to Ben. That's got it. But Ben's a well-off man who'll go to a gentleman's club and have a nice lunch that'll cost him 60 quid. While people are sitting here wondering if they can pay their mortgage. I deal with real people every single day of the week, and they are not bothered about how Reform's set up. And that is just dragging you down an avenue so that, oh yeah, and here's something else we can have a go at. I don't care. Nick Candy doesn't care. He's the treasurer. He'll be putting millions of pounds of his own money in. Why are you bothered about this point? Just because a reliable, wonderful individual like Ben Habib has brought it up. I don't care. I've been in business all my life. I know exactly what a limited company is. I own 3, and I've got 2 partnerships. And the fact that it has a shareholding value, the shares aren't worth anything yet. And the money that's coming in is just going to get spent setting branches up and public relations material and doing PR. There's not, if Nigel Farage makes 20 million quid and buys 15 dancing girls and buggers off into the sunset in 10 years' time, I don't care. I really do not care. Because at the end of the day, forget what Ben's saying about this setup of the party. Look what's happening in your parliament. There's 650 of them making us pay their electric bills. Second homes, cheap travel, holidays. Oh, there's more. One of them went to look at a coffee machine in Bali.
The people of Northern Ireland, the loyalist community in Northern Ireland will probably feel a little bit differently because they feel that they've been left behind after Brexit.
Oh, they have. They certainly have. Nobody would disagree with that. And one of the key people here is Ben Habib. He's put his money where his mouth is. He's fought that with Kate Hoy rigorously. We've just hived off 250, is it 260,000 people, part of part of the United Kingdom. We're now called the United Kingdom simply because Northern Ireland is part of it. We were called Great Britain before that. And to incorporate Northern Ireland, we're called the United Kingdom. And what we've done, the weak, pathetic politicians like Boris Bloody Johnson and Theresa May have managed to leave us. But, I'll tell you what, we're leaving you. And we're not going to be paying all our money. Well, not just as much, because we're signed into that many organisations. All money's going out anyway. But what we'll do, we'll give you these people in Northern Ireland, and you can have a border down middle. And then that way you'll be happy, won't you? No, we're still not happy. So that's why you can only have 90 days if you've got a second home in Europe. It's pathetic. What should have happened is exactly what Nigel Farage suggested, which was walk away on day one, WTO rules. It's not rocket science. WTO rules, World Trade Order. It's what the rest of the world used to trade with Europe. If we'd done that, then they'd have been gagging for a deal to bring in the French cars, the Italian cars. They'd have been begging to bring the cheeses in, the wines in. We buy from all their countries. We're their biggest customer after the American market. We sit on their slopes, we sit on their beaches, we buy the wine, we buy the cheese, we buy the cars, we buy the fashion. We were the customer. What planet are these politicians on that think the customer that's doing all the buying is in the weak position and has to negotiate? I've built my businesses up off customers, and when I've got good customers, if they say jump, I say give us a minute. How high? Oh no, we haven't to do that. We've got to drag it out for 2 years and wait for Theresa May to instigate Article 50. And then in between time, let's have another row with Gina Miller and we'll drag it out a bit more so we can keep all the free movement of cheap labour. This is what's gone on. And the value of Nigel Farage is getting nitpicked at. I don't know whether he's the right leader. He did say in an interview he doesn't even know if he'll carry it forward. He is 60 years old. But what you've got to remember with politicians or political parties, whatever you see with Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage and Richard Tice and Lee, bloody hell, the lad's name, something.
James McMurdoch.
McMurdoch, that's it. They're working as a team. They will negotiate with each other who handles what, right? Because obviously with being politicians, they're doing their own constituency work. They'll handle that individually. And then we'll come together on the stuff that gets done in Parliament, like Prime Minister's Question Time. Rupert Lowe's saying everything we want to hear because he's a new brush sweeping clean. If Nigel Farage said half of the things that Rupert Lowe is saying, the mainstream media would shut it down like they've always done, calling Nigel a racist. The best thing Nigel Farage can do is just step back. There we go. I've delegated that to him because I'm confident he can do that. And then that man, Rupert Lowe, can challenge Parliament exactly how he's doing it. And this isn't just about immigration. This is about farming and all the other crap that's going on. Definitely the other quangos that we have to adhere to. Nigel's now getting a team around it. Lee already, I mean, I haven't got time for Lee Anderson, you know. I feel sorry for Ferrets is left behind. Now he's got this fancy job. I did put that on his thread, but he took it off. What about them bloody Ferrets? He went to conference in that shiny suit. I thought we were auditioning for Shawani.
June, we're supposed to be getting angry with each other. You're going to make me laugh. Stop it.
I've got my best angry head on as well. No, but the thing is, they'll work as a team. So, and what I look at as, I've gone through all the Twitter feeds because that's a pretty good thing to look at. And the amount of stuff that those 5 individual men are handling is phenomenal. If you want to do it, just choose any other 5 MPs. Honest to God, go down those 5 for reform and look at what they're handling and think, oh my God, they're doing this, they're doing that. Look at that. And Tice has put some good stuff out. Bless him. It's like, you know, it's like you've got him from Remploy, you know what I mean? But he does put some good stuff out. And but you look at that, and then I go on other. I just chose 5 random MPs. I just chose 5 MPs whose names I could remember. So 4 happened to be Tories. And I thought, well, let's have a look at what they're doing. There's no happening. They've got nothing to say apart from a bit of constituency stuff within their own remit. They're not. I look on these other 5 MPs and I think, whoa, I want a bit of that. I want a bit of that going on. I want 350 of you in there doing that. Because the way I look at it, if reform can stay powerful, I think Elon Musk has got it wrong about the leader of reform. I think the right leader is in the right place at the right time. And because
I was going to say that's the big question. Ultimately, do you think that Nigel is the man to lead reform to win the next general election?
Yes. You haven't got a choice. You put Rupert Lowe there and all those people, this huge lump of people out there that don't follow politics online, all those people recognise, what's he called? Nigel Farage, like you'd know Colonel Sanders on a bucket of KFC. That's the face, you know what you're buying.
And do you know what, June?
It's like, who is he? I thought, who is he? Before the election.
June, you may well be right, but what we have to do, I think what we have to do is send a message to Nigel that he needs to be stronger. He needs to stand up for the working class, for the British people, for our fears more than anything, because when we see speeches like he gave earlier, and when we see him stabbing one of the most popular men in the country in the back, it doesn't instill us with confidence. It makes us more fearful, and it separates us, to my mind. I mean, look, the last demo, I say a demo, it's not a demo, but the last event that we put on, the one just before, or was it just before? The one just after the general election. The crowd was asked, who here voted reform? And I would say that 99.9% of people, if not 100% of people, put up their hand. We have another event on the 1st of February. If you ask the same question, I think that will be down to about 20%. That is not a good move.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It matters to the people who have decided not to vote for him because they'll have to go and vote somewhere else, and you haven't got anywhere else. I couldn't support UKIP because their spokesman is anti-abortion. Now, I can't talk about the horrors of the rape gangs, and I couldn't see, and having worked at a women's outreach centre as a trustee for domestic violence, I couldn't sit in front of a 12, and it has happened, a 12-year-old who's pregnant. At the time, they don't know whether it's the brother or the dad. This is nothing to do with grooming gangs. They don't know whether it's the brother or the dad, and the child has tried to instigate her own abortion because she doesn't want the child. I couldn't sit there and say, oh, but it's God's child, you must have it. You know, I'm pro-choice on stuff like that. And that's how I feel. So I'd never put a party in that. I mean, I'm not saying they're putting it in a manifesto, but it would put me off. You know, Lawrence doesn't believe in it. Lawrence is pro-life. We just don't discuss it. But I couldn't have my principles and see the suffering that's gone on. So where are you going to go with your vote? Because at the end of the day, this is why I said in my own podcast yesterday, if it's upset you so much that you can't vote because Nigel, that's it. You've had it with Nigel Farage, basically. So whatever he's doing, you're not going to support it. That's fine, as long as that makes you feel comfortable. But don't expect to change your country in the same breath, because you've only got 2 choices then. Revolution, no thanks. Or Farage's way, she's more MPs who think like him. You know, you've got to remember it's Nigel that's brought Rupert Lowe to you. It's his relationship.
June, that I would not argue with, and I want to say that I agree with all of those points. Can you support reform and not Nigel Farage?
As long as they were doing what they're doing now, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm not really bothered who's in charge. What I'm saying is at this interval in time, the person you need to get reform to grow is the face that they recognise, and the only face that they recognise. A lot of them don't know. They don't know Richard Tice.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Somebody actually.
No, I think we all get there. I think the worry is that if we get him there, if he gets there, will he deliver? And I have my doubts.
What's he going to deliver? I'm hoping, it depends what your expectations are. I'm hoping that what he delivers is Thatcherite conservatism. Thatcher didn't get everything right. A bloody abysmal the way she treated the miners. The biggest cock up of her political career, but she was savvy enough to turn her back on the EU. She didn't want to go into the euro. You know, she knew the euro was a bad mistake, whereas Blair would have had us in it. I think Blair kept us out, actually. What I'm saying is I don't know what you're looking for. I'm looking for what we had when Thatcher was running the country, except for the miners' strike bit. I'm looking for that. And I think...
Is that possible? Is that possible, though, June, without potentially mass, but wholly humane and properly done deportations of certain individuals? Can we...
You see, it's all language, it's all vocabulary. En masse deportation cannot happen. It's as simple as that. No matter how many people say it out loud who have never been in Parliament, never been in government, you want to be politicians. We mass deport them. All right, then. Come here. Let's see how that goes. You've got to put these into practice. He's not a president. Whoever gets in isn't a president. You can't, no matter how they say it, when they've not been in power, with the way our constitution's set up, you can't just do that. Because, as you know, a president, Donald Trump can sit down, rubber stamp it and say, I'm going to deport everybody. We're just going to, no more domestic flights. We're going to deport everybody in the next 3 weeks. And we're going to draft FEMA in to sort it out and get it done. Is it a president? He can do that. With Parliament, we're a prime minister. He's got to run it past Parliament unless it's deemed an emergency. Now, Farage's way, which is to deport people on he would increase the staff at Border Force. I mean, have you seen Border Force? Some of them can't speak English.
All the farce.
Yeah. So the way to do it is the legitimate way, which is insist on integration. Don't forget, Farage hasn't said he'd deport en masse, but Rupert Lowe has. So they sit down as a government and say, well, we've got to come to a workable plan. So the workable plan to me is don't let them in the first place. You wouldn't have people sat in hotels if Nigel Farage was your prime minister. That would never have got off the ground. So instead of looking, can he do it? Look at what he wouldn't have done. He wouldn't have done that. Imagine
when we
if
talk
Nigel
about
Farage was in 2019, you would not have people sat in hotels now. They would not have got in. And all you have to do is insist on identification. You eliminate the criminal element then. There's easier ways of getting rid of what's happened.
And when we talk about mass deportations as well, I want to be very clear on this. I'm not talking about anyone and everyone. I'm talking about the criminals that have come here. I'm talking about the people that are illegal that have come here. I mean, what is it? Hundreds of thousands now. Probably more than 1 million people are here, either illegally or they're here and they're criminally here. They shouldn't be here in the first place, and they should be deported. I'm not sure that he'll be up for that. I'm not convinced.
Well, Rupert Lowe has already said it. So Rupert Lowe wouldn't say that if it wasn't something Nigel Farage could be on board with. It all depends how it's handled, and it's vocabulary. And I think Nigel Farage could more than handle it because he knows how to put it into action. Because he's been around politics, he's seen how it's done. And when he says mass deportations, he doesn't want any criminals coming into the country. So they stop coming in, you insist on identification, you process claims quicker. He said a thing in the European Union when he was still in the EU, so it's a while ago, but I remember him saying something about how long it's taken to process asylum claims in Great Britain. This was before we started putting them in hotels. And he came up with a solution for processing the claims quicker. And ironically, years later, when I was in Austria, I can't remember the system, but it was the system that they'd employed, and they were getting rid of people in 6 weeks. We're not. We can come up with a better system. And what I look at, right? So Nigel Farage is my prime minister. What do you think the country would look like if he was prime minister in 2019? Well, you wouldn't have high energy prices because he wouldn't succumb to the agenda of this stupid zero. He wouldn't. I'm trying to watch the platform. He wouldn't succumb to that. There'd be no batshit crazy deals like Ed Miliband's doing. So that'd be sorted. He'd have paid waspy women out. because he agrees with that, he would have never have put people in hotels. That would not have got off the ground. So I look at all the things that he would never have done. I do it on a reflective basis. And I think he's more than capable of standing at a podium in number 10, running the country with a good set of people around. The other thing, the critical thing here was what Farage would do, and this is one of his best points. He'd change the civil service. He'd do a reverse on Tony Blair. He'd love to do that because that's been one of his, people hang on to stuff like, oh, he said Tony Blair, Tony Blair's way of doing the rollout was one of the best things to do. It was. Yeah. Tony Blair's logistical plan was a good plan. The bit that was flawed, we didn't bloody need it. We didn't need this. No. That's the bit that was wrong. But Farage he's not covertly operating. He gets the same memos as everybody else, and like everybody else, trusted the government was doing the right thing. But he didn't get boosted, did he? He'd worked it out by then, didn't we?
June, you put an amazing case for Nigel. If you was having a drink with him down the pub tonight, what would you say to him? Apart from mine's Prosecco and whatever.
I'd say to him, bloody hell, Nigel, you put your foot in it there. That's a bit clumsy. You didn't have your stilettos on, did you? You were using your club foot. Come on, you could have done better than that. That's what I'd say to him. And then I'd probably say, why couldn't you just get off the topic? You're a sharp lad. You should have thought better than that. But we don't know if at the time he's under so much pressure. These five, he's under irregular, I would call it irregular scrutiny. It's not on what goes on with them MPs. It's all part of the problem, really. Well, that's what
How is this going to pan out? How is this going to pan out, Junie? How is this going to pan out with Nigel, with Elon Musk, with Donald Trump?
Well, for a start, it's like that with Donald Trump. Elon Musk doesn't really understand British politics. He understands American politics, which is presidential, executive orders. President can do what he wants. Prime ministers can't. But Elon Musk's input is absolutely vital to our move in the right direction. Is even, what you've got to remember, it's Donald Trump that's took Zuckerberg around. Although, to be fair, I think Zuckerberg saw something in Donald Trump when he nearly got shot and he stood there punching the air. The first time, I've always said, I think if there's one thing that ever made me believe in X-Files, it's the presence of Mark Zuckerberg. He looks like a bloody alien, But if there was one human moment I saw of Mark Zuckerberg, it was when he was recounting the Donald Trump punch in the air, and he went, wow, that is badass, man. And I thought, bloody hell, he actually sounds like he represents, it means something. And he's backtracked on all his censorship now. So I think moving forward, don't take it on, but don't hang on to this stuff that colours your decision on how you want your country to be. Because what will happen with Elon Musk and Nigel Farage will be friends again. They're not friends. That's the wrong term, isn't it? This is a businessman and a politician.
They'll work together. You're saying they'll work together.
Yeah. There's nothing the surer. I'm going to look a right dick if they fall out, aren't I?
Well, look, June, this is the beauty of it, isn't it? We can either both look like a right dick, one of us can look like a right dick, or even that we are a proper dick. The truth will be there somewhere, won't it? Look, I'm sure the viewers are going to have enjoyed this. They're going to make their own minds up if they haven't done so already. But I go back to what I said right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
You and I disagree on certain things, but I think we have a very nice relationship. We often have a little chit-chat on the old WhatsApp, and, I have every respect for you, June, and I think you're brilliant. And we're on the same side. We want our country back. And like you, I don't care who delivers it. I just want them to bloody deliver it. Please, deliver it.
I don't care if it's Ronald McDonald in a clown outfit, as long as it works out.
Exactly. I agree with you there, June.
It's like, the thing is, the best advice I can give, don't make the mistakes I made at first, which is, did I tell you this? Well, I think it was Jacob Rees-Mogg. I was talking to him, and And I said about liking somebody, and he said, well, you don't necessarily have to like your politicians. You just have to wonder if they work for you. Don't like them. And actually, most of them are bloody bonkers. Most politicians are,
Yes.
you think they're all right. They come across on the soundbite and I think, yeah, but I know nuts.
Yeah. They are an unusual breed, aren't they?
Yeah. And that's why it's good to see Rupert Lowe and new faces coming forward. But going back to, yes, if he did another rally and people stood up and said, right, well, boo, we're not voting reform, the momentum from outside of the political bubble, well, not the political bubble, but you know what I mean, the people who are following it all, the momentum is growing at such a fast pace that they can stand it. They can, for what they'll lose from reform Tommy supporters, they will more than make up from the general public who think Tommy Robinson's a wrong un because they've only ever heard stuff off the media. Bloody millions of them. It's sad, but it's true. Yeah. And I think we should also mention at this stage another good thing. The plus point of all this with the media keep asking Nigel questions. Every time it mentions Tommy's name, you couldn't even put it up on my social media page on Facebook. You used to get a ban, 3-day ban for mentioning his name. Yeah. So now it's on Channel 4, BBC. There's that name. It's again. What do advertisers do to push a product? Keep saying the name. So it's not all lost. Even if Nigel isn't saying the wording that you want, at least the topic's getting discussed. Even if they're doing it in a negative light, at least there'll be somebody somewhere, won't they, sat there going, who is he? Trying to find out more about it.
Well, that video's had, I think, 15 million views this last few days.
I say
15 million views.
The thing is, if they just let him do his job now is journalism, and he's good at it. And is he the only person? Another person that I'll never understand the vilification of is Katie Hopkins. Bloody hell has she ever done apart from being gobby? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. These Channel 4 stuffed shirts and BBC journalist types, they've got the kids at private school. Katie's paid big time for being outspoken. And that's all she's ever done is be outspoken. She's not asked for anybody to go to war. She's not. No. Nobody's injured. Nobody's mentally distressed.
There's no malice, is there? There's no malice.
No. And thankfully, she's sticking with sort of comedy. But I did a post about it, and she shared it and put thank you up. She knows what I'm just a bloody 67-year-old woman who's pissed off with how things are going. So I'm just doing my best. I've got the time to do it, to alert people to what's going on. That's why I won't join a political party, because I want people, if they see a video from me and I'm talking about something, I might not get it right all the time. And if I know I've got it wrong, I'll apologise. But what I want people to know is, right, I'm doing this all the time like a trader will be looking at the stock market. This is what I see. You need to know about that. You need to know about that. And then you can make your decision. That's what because I want to be able to turn my back on reform people if I see them doing something. I've had a couple of run-ins with Lee Anderson on his Facebook page when he were with Tories. He unfollowed me. So I don't suck up to anybody. I'm not like a sycophant. Oh, Nigel Farage, this. I tweeted something Ben had put up the other day, because Ben can't understand the people of Wellingborough. Twice you missed out on him. Twice. Yeah. What are you thinking?
Yeah. What were they thinking?
They've all got something to offer, and it's my belief we should fight in our own arenas. I'm commentary. That's all I am. I'm not going to go to any marches. They're always in London, dog sitting, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I'll put the effort in every single day. Well, you might be going to a march once every 6 or 7 months. I get up in the morning, I read everything that's coming in, check my WhatsApp. I put something out every single day. And I have.
And you're on it. You have to be on it. Yeah. June, brilliant. Lovely having you on. As I said, I'm sure look, viewers watching this, let us know what you think in the comments below. I'm sure you will anyway. Massive thank you to June for coming on. And June, I'll see you soon.
You're going to let me have a copy for my YouTube, because I can't
100%. 100%.
You do it a lot more professional than me. I've got no equipment.
100%. I'll send you a
And I think
copy.
it's important people understand your point of view. And on a personal level, I really like dealing with you, Paul. And I think if politicians with different viewpoints got on as well as we did, would have a better bloody country.
Thank you. We would indeed. You've always got to listen. I always say, June, if you're never wrong, you don't learn anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. June, all the best. See you soon.
Thank you. All right then.